you believed, you are like telling those things now, okay, here it is. Like there's nothing left for the enemy to try to hold against me. Like I've exposed everything.
Yeah.
So, but it was so freeing for me because
Not from a pulpit, not behind a stage, but from living rooms, sidewalks, and everyday life. These are the stories of people you'd walk past, sit next to, or call your neighbor. But their stories, they preach. Real people, real battles, real God. Welcome to Stories That Preach. Hi everyone, my name is Cybelle Torres. I am here with Ashley Delgado, who just released her new book, and we're going to be having a book launch. And one of the things when we were talking and sitting at the table, I was like, Ashley, like, what are we doing? Like, why are we writing again? And what is this book launch going to be about? Like, what's your vision? And we had this amazing conversation at the table, and we thought, yo, we should invite the world into this, right?
literally so good.
So Ashley, tell the world about the date of the book launch and
Yeah.
all the little good details.
So as she said, I'm Ashley Delgado, and I'm going to be releasing my new book, which is called Beyond Beautiful, and we will be having a brunch for all women to come out and sit in the room with us and have these real conversations out loud. It's going to be on April 19th, a Sunday, from 11 to 2 o'clock, and we hope to see you there.
So you got all the deets, so make sure that you put it on your calendar and be there. I'm going to be there as well. And one of the questions that I had was, Ashley, what do you hope for this particular launch? Like, what brought forth? Because I know you already had a book launch when the first book came out, which was You Are Still Beautiful. And this one that is on display, this is the second book here, which is Beyond Beautiful. But what was the vision in regards to having this launch? There was a question that was posed to you.
Yeah, so this is the after season. And someone said to me that the first event was so amazing and they had such an experience and they realized that there were so many things that they still needed to heal from, or things that they kind of like hid away and they didn't deal with it, I should say. And so they were left with all these emotions afterwards and they're like, okay, well, what do I do now? And she mentioned that sometimes people have these amazing conference for women and you have this encounter with God, but then there's no follow-up. So they're like, what do we do next? And this is my follow-up. It's a little overdue, but here it is. So this is just everything that comes after. It's the after season.
Oh, okay. So with that said, with the people that you're inviting back, the guest speakers that you had from last year, what do you envision and what do you expect from each one of them?
I envision it being exactly what we're doing right now, just like a panel style where we're just having these real conversations, because I want people to understand that it doesn't matter what your title is, it doesn't matter what your background looks like. We are all still walking this path with God, and it might look different for everyone. So healing is a process. And you have this beautiful moment and encounter with God, and there's healing and there's restoration, and you are set free and all this stuff. But it doesn't just end there. It's a daily thing. And I kind of said this in my promo video. It's dying to self daily. And I want them to know, like, you have to do the work when you're healing. It's not an overnight fix and everything just goes together smoothly. No, it's something that you have to invest into. You have to seek God. You have to read your word. You have to feed your soul. It's such a process. So I want them to see, like, this is what we walk through. This is what helped us. Like, let's just be open and real about it, because as women and as Latinas especially, we don't talk about those things. Yeah. There is such a shame in talking out loud about the things that you experience. And I want to just open a space where people feel comfortable and free to be honest about it. Because sometimes healing is ugly.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely ugly.
Yeah.
So for those of you who weren't with us last year, Ashley had a few guest speakers. I was actually one of them. And so to give you a little taste of what we talked about, I am the girl who was abused sexually. And I grew up in a home where this was a daily occurrence. And I grew up, encountered the Lord, and actually forgave my abuser, but there's so much more details to the story than that. But how it set me free, right? So I had come to a place of having suicidal ideologies, come to a place where I was really struggling with my identity. I was struggling with who I am. And all of this happened years before I actually met Ashley. But Ashley came and she visited my church. We became really good friends, very close friends.
I just must say, and I still remember this day, she was wearing a green button-up shirt. Like, I kid you not, it was such a God divine, like, I knew, like, there's just such a thing that I always ask God, like, give me discernment. And I feel like I didn't have many choices in my upbringing, right? There were just so many things that were done and chosen for me. And when I met Zybel, there was something so interesting about her that I was like, she's going to be my friend. Like, I remember that day. I'm not even kidding. I was like, she's going to be my friend. And here we are.
Yes, years later.
17, maybe more, I think, years later.
We've become very, very good friends. So, of course, she grew up around me, and she got to hear my story, and I was so honored that she invited me to share the story. And actually, shortly after, I released my book. And so there's been a lot of aftermath that came after that. And one of the things that happened at your event that I still carry with me to this day, I mean, there were so many beautiful details that played out that day. But one of the speakers was a licensed therapist. And she came over to me after hearing my testimony, and she just wanted to tell me how encouraged and inspired she was with my story, because my story is a bit controversial, right? Like, no one wants to talk about forgiving your abuser, but that's my story and what it unfolded, not only in my life, but in the life of the abuser. And so, but there were more people. There was another pastor there that she had shared her testimony, her story. I won't drop any like teasers on that. You can hear it from her later. And there was another one, right? How many speakers?
It was three speakers.
So it was the pastor, myself, and the therapist, and then Ashley. And everybody has like these amazing, powerful stories. But the beautiful thing about it was the stories were so tragic for every single person. And all of these people, according to society's standards, should be a statistic that doesn't leave us in a very good light. It doesn't even leave us in a hopeful situation, like at all. But because of our encounter, everyone had their own personal journey with the Lord. And because of our encounters with God and our obedience to do what the Word of God says, all of these miracles unfolded in our life. And we're all in a season right now. Like, I feel like this is the season of exposure. And it's not a season to expose people and be like, aha, you did that. No, we're not doing anything like that. It's more like, hey, look, this is what happened, but look at who saved us. Not only that, but look at us. You know, like, people are suffering with depression, anxiety, panic attacks because of these secrets that they hold hidden inside. And we're not asking people to join the bandwagon and expose people or anything like that. Like, my story is coming out 25 years after, after my abuser passed away. So this is like 25 years after, and there's been a lot of work that has been done in my life, but I tend to look at myself in the mirror. I don't know about you, but I look at myself in the mirror and I don't hate myself. I am constantly reminded of, like, God, like, I don't know why you would choose me, but you did, And it reminds me of the story in Mark 5 of the man in the tombs, right? He was cutting himself. And we hear a lot of stories of women who are cutting themselves. And not just women, it's everyone. And they're looking...
In all ages.
All ages. And they're doing it to feel something because they have gone numb. And this man was in the tombs. He was cutting himself. his society, his entire like community around him had pretty much written him off as a nutcase. You know, they were scared of him. He was pretty much crazy and out of his mind, but then he encounters one man.
Changes everything.
Changes everything. And then the beautiful thing is that the part that messes me up in that story is that, you know, he has this encounter with Jesus, and Jesus is about to get in the boat because all these people are mad at him and they want him to leave because of this miracle that happened. And this man wants to get in the boat. He wants to get in the boat with Jesus, and Jesus turns around and says, no, you got to go home and you got to tell everyone what the Lord has done for you. And that's us.
Exactly. I was going to say, that's exactly us. And people are always like, oh my gosh, how did it feel writing all those things? Like, it's a lot to put out there. And I did, just for full transparency, I did fight with God. I'm like, are you sure? You want me to put this on paper for everyone to see? Like, there's no going back from that. And I must say that even in writing the first book, there was still some healing that I had to walk through in writing that, because it's different when you think about the things you've gone through, but when you're just like really being vulnerable and writing it out there for everyone to see, there's something so freeing when you are actually saying the story out loud. And it's almost like all these false identities that you believed, you are like telling those things now, okay, here it is. Like, there's nothing left for the enemy to try to hold against me. Like, I've exposed everything. There's no going back from a book. It's so, but it was so freeing for me because I was finally like releasing all of those things now, not holding onto it like this is part of my identity or this defines who I am, because it doesn't. It's everything after that. But that's like literally what you just said was the why I did it, because I needed people to understand that, yes, this happened to me. Yes, this happened to Zybel, but look at what God brought us through. And like, it's all about him, and just kind of reflecting that and the beauty and the testimony of being like, we could stay stuck on, okay, this happened to me and be this victim. But no, it's like, look at what God took me out of. Look at what God walked me through. So,
yeah, and that's kind of the hope. Like when you read Ashley's book, this is the hope that's left for the reader.
Yeah.
Right? They read the book and they're like, wow, if this happened to her, and this is not a celebrity. This is not someone who is, coming up for an appearance for voting or anything like this. This is your neighbor. You know, it's your neighbor,
your sister in the Lord.
Your sister in the Lord, yeah. And I love that. I love that so much, because people need to have that hope.
Yeah.
And that's something that's missing today. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but when I walk around, I tend to look at people. Like today, I was walking around at the hospital, and because I had to take my mom to the doctor appointments, and I was saying hi to people. And people were shocked with a hello.
Yeah.
You know, like, we're not down south.
Right.
You know? I'm like, there's no wrong in being polite, but just smiling at people. And I sat down and thought to myself, I was like, wow, there's a lot of people who are angry. But I also think back to my own life, and I'm like, that there was a time that was me. You know? And it almost seems wrong to keep that, like, our encounter with the Lord is almost like, Jesus saying, hey, here's the keys out of the prison, my love. And now you get to stand outside of the key, but you're watching me inside.
Right.
Struggling.
You just keep it to yourself.
You just keep, and that's what happens. There's a lot of Jesus hoarders, right? Because they just want to keep Jesus to themselves. They don't want to tell anybody what's going on. They live in this freedom, but they're looking at, this world around them that is struggling, right? And then later they find themselves struggling as well. But I really feel like to break that struggle, like what you've been saved from tends to be like me personally, I work in a ministry where I help women recover from these type of traumas, you know, like I'm coming back with the key in my hand and I'm like, here, sis,
Right.
here's the
Right.
key. This is the same key that was given to me. I'm giving it to you. And now you can walk out of the jail cell,
Yeah.
you know, or to my brother in the Lord, like, hey, bro, here,
Right.
you know, here's the keys. I need for you to know that there is a way out of this jail cell.
Yeah.
And imagine if we did that all around the world. Imagine if every day we took the opportunity, and of course you want to do this with proper discretion, right? You don't want to be like, hey, want to know my story?
Right. Random person walking by. Let me tell you a story.
Like, oh, this crazy girl just stopped me on the street to tell me her testimony.
Yeah.
But God is going to place people in front of you, and he's going to create an opportunity for you to share those stories.
Yeah.
You know, and now we're in a place in a day and age where you can write a book, you know, and you can put it out there. But at the same time, like when I was listening to you talk about your experience in writing the book, the first person I thought about is David, you know, like David, when he was going through something, he wrote it all down, and he was transparent. He wasn't trying to be like this picture perfect king. He was like just writing all the ugly pieces about himself. He documented it all. And today we read them. And for what purpose? It speaks to our heart and our soul, how to be transparent with the Lord, you know? So sometimes when I mean, I know I personally look at my books as, and I know you do too, but like, this is our Psalms. This is our song. And this is also what we leave to the world. We're giving you a map.
No, yeah, because, you know, same, like you said, it's 25 years after. For me, in writing this, it was 17 years after. And I'm like, it took me so long to just realize what I had to do to be able to be free from it, because I was like only partially giving myself to God and expecting this big thing from him and saying, but God, I'm giving it to you. He's like, hold on. What about those hidden things in your heart that you don't tell people about? And I'm just like, oh, wait. So I look at it like, if I knew what I know now then, and I can just give it to someone in a 2-hour read, because my book is not that long to read, like 2 hours for someone who loves to read is going to take you. And you can have that in just one book, what I didn't have 17 years ago. Why? Why would I keep that to myself?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, girl, if God did it for me, he can do it for you too.
Yeah. And I remember reading in my life, in my story, I remember reading a devotional that was written by a woman who had struggled with depression and anxiety. And I remember reading her story and being wowed by it, you know, and this was years ago, right? And I was wowed by it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I want.
Right.
And her God, I wanted her God, you know? I wanted that same love from a God to embrace me and to take care of me and to pull me through. Was it an easy? No. This was a difficult walk. It was a very difficult walk of obedience, but the freedom that comes from it, you know? And so I'm very excited about your book launch. I'm very excited about what these books are going to do for the next generation. I am going to say, you got to put these on Audibles, girl. There's a whole generation of people who do not read.
I know. I am hitting that generation. I said I would never do that, but it's what time allows.
Yeah.
I am going to plan to do it. It's just, it's so precious to me that it's just like, I want to tell my own story. So
Yeah.
once you master it, let me know.
That was no easy task either. That was not fun. But I do want to say I'm very proud of you, Ashley. I'm very proud that you have come this far. Like, I remember the first time I met you, how you struggled a lot with what had happened to you. And I remember where the Lord was taking you and the conversations that we have had over the years. And to see you now, you know, Ashley is not only an author, but she's a mom of how many? 4 amazing, rambunctious, very energy-filled children.
Like their daddy. No.
She's a wife. She has a full-time job. She's very busy, but she took the time to write this out, and she didn't write this for her benefit. She wrote it for your benefit.
Yeah.
So please pick up a copy of the book. Make sure that you get your copy, show up at the event. Even if you didn't come to last year's event, this is one of those events that you don't want to miss. You want to show up for this one.
Yeah, be in the room with us.
Yeah. And let me tell you, there's something powerful about being in the room. You know, a lot of people would rather watch online. This is not going to be an event that is streamed. This is going to be an event that you need to be in the room to experience. Mm-hmm. And last year there was a lot of breakthrough for a lot of women, and I think that's why they're asking for it to come back, right? They want it again because there was a lot of breakthrough. Mm-hmm. Do you have any like little stories or anything that you can share with discretion?
I'm like, hold on, let me think. I wasn't prepared for this question. I think for the most part, it's just that like people just realizing it's okay to share their story. And, you know, a lot of people, you would be surprised if you went into a room and you took a poll and were like, okay, how many have been through this or whatever? You'd be surprised to know how many people have dealt with similar things that you've dealt with. And so when I got the feedback and I realized how many women and girls are actually assaulted, or, you know, they go through certain things and they've never said anything about it, I'm like, whoa. But I think the biggest one for me was from a different perspective. It wasn't from like the person who actually went through it. It was from a mom saying, wait a minute, I feel like I did not do right by my child. And so now they're angry and they're kind of far from God, and they want nothing to do with what I'm doing. And they came to your event, and this was like the first real conference or anything type thing that they've ever gone to. And now to this day, I know that this person is faithfully serving God, going to church, like so involved. And she's a young girl. I'm like, wow. So for her alone, it was worth it.
Yeah. See, that's beautiful. And there's a scripture that I think it's found in Revelations that talks about the power of your testimony, that the power of your testimony will testify to the nations around you. You're literally expressing God's glory on earth every time you share your testimony. I do want to touch on that for a minute, though.
Go ahead, girl.
Right? Because we talk a lot about sharing your testimony and sharing your story with the world and so on. So I wanted to ask you, because this is family stuff. Mm-hmm. How did your family take it?
So I try to talk to people before I put it out there, because, you know, so I am a 4 and I am the only girl. I have all brothers, and I knew that my brothers will feel a type of way. And it wasn't like an angry kind of way. It was more of a like, I want to protect you, and why didn't I know? And so I knew that they were going to go through those feelings. And I sat with them and I told them, like, I'm doing this, and it's not to make you angry or feel like you have to do something to make it up to me. It really is for me and for my healing. It's what I need to do. Like, it's a call that I have to answer. And you know, they understood, but they did go through their feelings of it. You know, one of my brothers, I feel like he really had to almost grieve, in a sense, like this idea that he had, like I was the only girl, so like my life would be easy and he didn't have to think twice. And he's like, dang, I should have checked in on her. And so he had to walk through that. And it was like sad, but at the same time, I think it was in the end good for both of us, because I got to tell him, like, you're feeling these things, and now you know what happened, but look at me. Look at, like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. Like, my life isn't perfect, but my life is good, and it could have been worse off. So you have to look at that part of it. He's like, you know what, sis, you're right. So that part of it, and you know, my dad was upset. He was upset, and he did stop talking to me for a while, which I don't blame him. You know, these things are hard to read and to know that happened. And I mean, we've moved past it and we're in a better place. And it is what it is. I held it for so long because I didn't want anyone to be hurt, and I didn't want it to seem like I was trying to tarnish our name or, you know, point fingers at anyone. the story wasn't about that. It wasn't about them at all. It was solely so that you can have the context of knowing my story so you can see what God did. So,
And then there's been some breakthrough since then, or
oh yeah, me and my dad are in such a good place. He just asked me the other day, he's like, "What's this new book about?" I'm like, "Don't worry, it is only about God." I'm like, the story has been told. Everyone has the context. We're just looking at God.
yeah, I'll be very honest with you. So I loved You Are Still Beautiful. Like I mean, I've known you for a long time, so when I read it, I was like, there were things that I did not know.
Right.
Like I did not know about your illness. I didn't know about cancer at all, and that was something that was new. But when Beyond Beautiful came out, like this is definitely like context. Like you need context, and I learned so much about you in this. But this one, like drove it home.
It's different.
It's different. This one gives a lot of glory to the Father. It really, really, really does. And like I feel like these need to be together in one book. But I'm so glad that there's a part two. But and you don't necessarily need to read this one to get this one, but it does help. You know, it does help for you to get some context in regards to who Ashley is. But it was beautifully done. And I wanted you to share a little bit about that struggle with writing a book, especially with family matters, because I remember when I wrote mine, like I got everyone's permission to write it before I did. You know, like I was very nervous about how they would be affected. And when it came out, I feel like a lot of people reached out to me and was like, oh, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to write about this and I'm going to do it to expose people. And I was like, whoa, did you read the book?
Right.
Because that's not what it does at all. Like the story is not just my testimony, but it is my father's testimony as well. You know, and it's a beautiful story, and I'm very grateful for the story that God gave me. But I felt like people just looked at the title and just knew just like a little bit of it and was like, they made their own conclusion, and they literally thought that I was like hammering people over the head in my family and exposing people. And that wasn't the case at all. Matter of fact, I had this one woman who stopped me in Walmart, didn't know who she was. She stopped me and she was like, hey, I read your book and I was with my mom. And she saw that I was with my mom. And when she saw me with my mom, and if anybody struggled alongside of me, it was my mom with releasing this book, because it was her story as well. You know? So when this lady stopped us in Walmart, she said, I read your story. She goes, I just want to hug you. But do you mind if I talk to your mom? And I was like, sure. And my mom came home that day, and apparently they had similar stories. So this woman who had stopped us, she had married a man who had ended up abusing, you know, child molestation to her niece, who she was trying to raise as her own. And so she was heartbroken that she had married the man who had done this to a child that she was entrusted to take care of. And she was beating herself up. And no one knew how to answer her like the way my mom could answer her.
Right, yeah.
And my mom sat home with me and she was like, you know, if you had not written that book and said all the things that you said, she probably wouldn't have come to ask me the questions. And right there in Walmart, I stepped aside and I was just letting my mom minister, and she had to pray. Like I just blocked the aisle so that way they could pray together. And she hugged my mom. They exchanged phone numbers, became friends.
Aww.
And now my mom has become this person that, you know, like if there are people in my life that people could relate to, you know, like a lot of people can't relate to my story, but they could relate to my mom.
Yeah.
And so they reached out to my mom, and I love that there was that template for people to follow, you know, for them to seek help. And I thought of yours, especially and beyond beautiful, because you talked about your life as a mom. You know, you talked about a little bit about your babies and what they were going through. And like that
Like,
mustn't have been easy.
yeah, yeah. I'm
No.
not gonna get emotional. I won't do it. No. Yeah. I don't want to give too much, but yeah, it just is so different. You know,
Well, you should give your audience a little bit of a teaser so that way they know what to expect, you know?
yeah, it's so different when you are walking through something just by yourself. Like me being just Ashley, it's different. But Ashley as a mom, and now looking through things through their eyes too, because I have to think about them. And it's so funny because I'm so hard on myself as a mom, but God is always speaking to me through my children and some of the things that they do. And there's a lot of stories that I share about my children where God just speaks to me in such a way, and I'm like, I understood his love so much differently when I became a parent. So there's that part of it that is just so amazing. You're like, oh my gosh, I understand now how much you love us and you're willing to sacrifice for your children. But then there's that part that is like, I just want to protect them from everything. And so you have to learn to like trust God in that and not fall back into the mentality that you carried when you were dealing with the trauma. So it's like finding that healthy balance of like not being so much, because for me, I thought protecting them was normal. Like this need to say like, no one's going to hurt my children. And I realized that that was not healthy, because in that, I was so like consumed by that. I wasn't really trusting God and what he is capable of, and just like raising them in that. And so I kind of talk about like just how, you know, I start to see God more in the things that my children do. It's you got to read it. No.
Yeah, you do. I mean, moms, I'm in grandma phase right now.
Which is crazy, right?
But when I was getting to that part, I couldn't help but think about, and this was one of the things that I kind of pulled away. I was like, you know, everybody's doing life for the first time, right? And so, like, you think of the older generation and you always think about your parents, and it's very easy to be like, oh, it's because my parents raised me that way. It's because they did this. It's because they did that. It's because they traumatized me. But they were experiencing life for the first time, too.
Yeah.
And then you grow up, you become an adult, and now you're in charge of the next generation. And there's this fear that you're going to mess them up.
Yeah.
Right? And I just think it's just, it was interesting to kind of see like the phases of life, you know? And like I was having a conversation with my daughter just last night, and I was like, everybody's experiencing life for the first time. You know, my mom is 82 years old. And when I see her go someplace new and look at something in awe, it breaks my heart, because those are the reminders that, yo, this is her first time at life too. And she didn't have all the answers.
Yeah.
And we live in such an information age, right? So now this next generation upcoming, we're breaking the stigmas of therapy. Because as you know, in the Hispanic community, it was for a long time very taboo. You know, see, if you're going to therapy, está loca. You know, so now we're breaking those taboos, and people are going to a therapist. People are talking. People are breaking free from secrets, breaking free from shame, and now they've come to a place of protecting their children, but in a different headspace. So, like, I know me personally, raising my kids, I remember I was just overly protective, and I was doing damage and overly protecting them. And there were times where my daughter was super mad at me, and I was like, mira, nena, one day you're going to understand. One day you'll get it, you know? But that was the same thing that my mom did with me, you know? And the same thing that her parents did with her. And so these cycles that you think are good and that you think are protecting your kids are not necessarily protecting
Yeah.
them. You're repeating cycles. You're repeating things that you've learned behaviors.
Right.
Right? And some of the learned behaviors are good and some of them are bad. But where do you extend grace to yourself when you make
Yeah.
mistakes?
And I am so privileged in a sense to have 4 because I learned a lot from the first to the fourth, right?
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation with my daughter the other day, my oldest daughter who is 12 years old, and I just had a moment with her and I said, "I'm so sorry." And she's like, "Huh?" You know, cuz they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I told her, I said, "I'm so sorry that I put so much pressure on you as the firstborn without even knowing it." And she's just looking at me like, "Okay, I don't know what you're talking about." But I told her, I said, "You got the unhealed version of mommy. And you got the learning one because I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know what I was doing, and not only did I not know what I was doing, but I was unhealed in doing it." And so I felt like I just needed to apologize and have that moment with her. And my oldest daughter, for those who don't know, she's like a little mom. She's so nurturing. Like that is just her character. And I felt like some of it I kind of put on her, like these unrealistic expectations for a little girl, her being the oldest and me having so many children. I didn't even realize that I was doing. And I told her, I'm like, your job is to be a kid and be happy, and you're not responsible for your younger siblings. And she kind of said, like, I do just feel like it is my responsibility because I am the oldest. And I know that being the oldest, I can't take that part. But I wanted her to know that, like, I'm in a better place, and I don't want you to feel stressed like you have to overcompensate for mommy. And I know there were moments that I had where I was like really low and depressed. And although she was young, I'm sure she felt that. And I'm sure she had a moment of being like, something's not right here, right? Like, because there were days where I wouldn't come out of my room and I was just so sad and I didn't want to talk to anyone. And I'm sure she felt the weight of that. So I had to have that moment of being like, I'm so sorry. And like, I want you to know. And I even told her, like, you saved me in so many ways. And she's like, what? And I'm like, you saved me because you gave me a reason to fight to be better and to really go after this and really just kind of surrender to God and be like, God, I can't do this anymore on my own. I need you to help me through it. And like, that is how I got to where I am right now. And she was like, I saved you. She felt so good. She was like, I saved you. I'm like, yeah, mama, you did. And just kind of affirming her, because I always said, I'm going to tell my children I love them every day. And I'm going to ask my children every day how their day is. Even if they say just okay, I want them to know that I care about their day. I don't even care. Like I work in the same place they go to school. So there's no getting away from me. But even then, I still want to know how your day was because your experience is different than mine. So I can see it in a different way. And you could have been going through something. But every day I ask my kids, I'm like, how was your day? And sometimes they're just like, okay, but whatever. I'm going to consistently do that because I want them to know mommy cares about all the little details of your life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was such a beautiful moment that I got to have with her. And I felt like, in a sense, it did give her this, okay, moment, because I just see a difference in her, like her joy, and she's just, I don't know, I can't explain it, but I'm so glad that I had that opportunity to do it before it was too late, before she was grown up and having this own experience of her own, like coming into being a wife and a mom, like that I got to do it now, because now we get to move forward in that and have a different relationship. So
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful. And one of the powerful things that you said was that you apologized. And that's something that didn't happen way back when, right? Because, a parent is like just trying to navigate their child, and some of them are very proudful and don't apologize. I saw a reel the other day where this woman was like, that there was all this dysfunction in her house, but that she has always known that her family was a family of believers. Was there a lot of chaos happening? Yes. And she said, but in the same essence, my mom apologized often. My mom would pray with me often. My mom would, expose the truth so that way I wasn't creating a narrative in my mind. And that's something that happens with kids, right? Like if you don't talk to them and you don't tell them what's going on, they create a narrative in their own mind. When I was writing my story, there was a story in my book that when I wrote it and I wanted my mom to read it first, my mom was like, "Oh, mija, that's not how that played out." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And then she was like, "Well, that's how it happened, but what's in your head of the reason why, that's not why." And I was like, "What?" Like I thought the whole time this happened because of me. And she was like, "No." She said, "Here's what happened." And I was like blown away because I was like, yo, I had this whole narrative in my mind as to why you reacted that way. And I thought it was because you saw me. And she was like, "No, that whole fiasco was because this and this happened."
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh. And then I had to revamp. I had to go back and re-edit the book and put the facts in. Right? Because then I was like, wow, I had that all wrong. I mean, it still played out. The events still happened. The fight still happened, but I had the reason why. And I had this assumption in my head. But I was like 8 years old, right? And so I created a narrative to explain my mom's behavior, And that's what happens with kids. They create a narrative to explain our behaviors. But when we apologize, when we own what happened, you teach your children, and I think it's beautiful because then you teach your children to do exactly the same thing. I have met so many people, fabulous people, but there are people who are so proudful and won't admit that they're wrong, and so I don't even want to be friends. Like, I do not want to be friends with you.
There's no reason.
I'm like, we can't be friends. If you can't say that you were wrong or that you the people I admire the most, like I remember talking to this one girl where she was like, I went on a missions trip and the kids had lice. And I was like, I got curly hair. I'm not messing with no kids with lice. And then the girl that was next to her, and she was like, "You think they want lice?" And she was like, "You're right. I'm a jerk. You're absolutely right. I will wash their hair."
Yeah.
And I respected that so much, because I was just like, man, if people could just like own it and just and we all just laughed it off and moved on.
Yeah.
But I never forgot that when she shared that with us. I thought that was such a humbling moment that she was very willing to share, because we all have those moments where we're like humiliated, and instead of just owning it, we want to get all proudful about it and defend ourselves.
No, totally owning it. Like, oops. My bad. Like, okay. Yeah.
Well, Ash, I thank you for coming.
Thank you
Today.
This is our first.
I know this is our first episode, and I don't know if we'll do more of it. But if you did enjoy it, please leave your comment below. But and then maybe you can help me name this, like what we're gonna call it. But you'll see some reels on Ashley's social media. Make sure you actually want to tell them how they can follow you.
Yeah, they can follow me at let me explain this. Don't get it wrong. It's Scars to Beauty _ YASB, which is Yasb for You Are Still Beautiful. So it's Scars to Beauty _ YASB.
When we edit this video, we'll just put like a little bar right across.
Follow here. And also make sure you follow Zybel, because she has her book as well. But not only that, she does all of my photography. So this cover picture is done by her. My picture on the back is done by her. The big banner that I'll have at my event, picture but done by her.
And her video now done by me.
My whole life has been captured by Zybel.
I have amazing friends who are all willing to share their story. So leave a comment. We'll put this up very soon, and I hope to hear from you. And we'll have everything in the description below, so that way you can get in touch with Ashley and get tickets for the event that is coming up really soon.
April 19th.
All right. Well, signing out. God bless you.
Bye, guys.